What's up, guys? Today is Tuesday. We have a hurricane coming tomorrow. Uh, actually, I haven't been keeping up with it, but yeah, it's still said we're gonna go to work. But we'll see. Anyway, I caught a little cold, so I didn't code yesterday. Really don't feel good, but I wanna get something done, so I'm gonna code for at least an hour. So we're starting at 4 o'clock. Not 4:00, 4 o'clock. And let's go ahead and look at our things to do. Okay, so we're dealing with the draw animation disappear bug. During the draw animation for both clients, after they choose their draw card, it moves visually to the hand location, but then it disappears. We suspected that Dirty was the culprit, but we discovered it isn't the culprit. We tested that, verified. Then card is being replaced to the draw animation location instead of remaining in the hand. Next, check game ID int being equal to none. Yeah, because what is happening here is the card is being told to go back to its previous draw animation location. Yeah, so we saw that there was game ID int being equal to none, and that shouldn't be I'm pretty sure the royal we're not sure that that should ever be the case, or we are quite sure that it should never be the case. We shouldn't have game ID int be equal to none ever. As far as I understand it, and since I'm the only one who's worked on this project ever, then there's nobody else I can ask. So hopefully we understand what we're talking about here. Okay, stream's working. Cool. Gotcha. See you later. Alright. Check all instances of card movement calls to find the game ID int arg either not being assigned in the call, which defaults it to none, or being set to none explicitly, but it's most likely the former. So I think when we call card movement, I think the safer option though is if we call card movement but forgot to add in that arg explicitly, it's going to default to none, and that's probably what's happening. But remember, don't assume anything. And let me just go ahead and get my terminal open. Where is it? There it is. Now let's cd Canasta main and oh, spelled that wrong. Okay, cd Canasta main, and let's run a script, or an instance of the server script, an instance of the client script, and an instance of the other client to get, whoa, alright. So let's make sure we have client 1, which is almost always on the left, I'm pretty sure. So this is going to be client number 2. He's going to hit enter, and then he's going to hit enter. And we have a little visual bug there, but that's like nothing. I'm not really worried about that. Now, and then the card goes back to its former location. In the draw animation, something is telling it to go back there, but pretty certain it's not. You know what I just realized I could do? Can I do control? I can. I can find. I never really realized I can do this in terminal. Let's see the draw. So we get the draw animation. Just want to verify a couple things first before I assume. Okay. Yeah, there's nothing there, and I just wanted to look at the like beginning point, the source, and I want to make sure that everything is good there. And it looks fine. I don't see anything wrong with that logic. I don't see the draw animation being called again. It's only called once. Now, yeah, and it's not gonna happen on the client side, so everything looks good concerning the logic there. Um, there was another thing I wanted to check. Oh yeah, I just wanted to take a quick gander at the terminal output. Okay, so there's too much for it to show everything. And I'm just gonna just scroll through this real quick. So we got card group data. Now this is for the draw animation. This is put everything in its draw animation location. I don't want to spend too much time on this because you can get stuck looking at this shit forever. Receive change attribute list, skeleton the card, da 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 da. Okay. All this stuff. Skeleton draw card, blah blah blah. Skeleton draw card, visual deck discard hand pre-sort update, card movement, send change attribute list, skeleton player data. Okay, so this is where we get the append. Okay, now this is the location. So this is immediately after card movement. So this is from inside the card movement function, and this is the destination, and this is the correct destination. So it's telling it to go to 6330 as the XY, and that's correct. And then it's sending what is this? Other client send change attribute list, player skeleton player data, append 11 to the hand. Okay. Then we get the card movement gets called again, or rather not called again. This is showing the card movement within the card movement function. Game ID int is equal to none, and then it returns. Okay, so it's assigned to the correct location, but then for whatever reason game ID int is equal to none, so it returns okay. But then on the client side, okay, and then we have see this right here, this card group data 578 307. Joshua, you picked 4. Let me go look at progression real quick. Let's pull this up. And what is that? Joshua, you picked us such and such. So let's find that. That's should be right around here. There we go. Joshua, you picked a P1 draw card. Then it changes the enter continue text active equal to true. Okay. So master deck, pop, master deck, index, P2 draw card, appended to the hand. So it's gotta have something to do with this append. Like, it's got to. I mean, that's the only, like, it's gotta be something up with that, obviously. And then it sends this to the other client. Current client change attribute list, deck, skeleton deck, pop. Current client change attribute list, skeleton draw card. 3 other clients and change attribute list. And then so this is sending it to the player 2 location, but then we get game ID in is equal to none, return, and then we get this card group data to 1207.603 XY, which is not correct. Strange. Alright, so yeah, anyway, we're gonna look up card group data as well. After next, we're gonna look up card group data to add logs to see exactly when this change is occurring. Anyway, let's look up the game ID int thing. So we need to look up card movement. We're going to look up all card movement calls. So let's search for that throughout the project. And let's make this terminal a little smaller. Let's bring client over here and make that a little bigger. There we go. And now we can go through and look. Well, doesn't it get past? Yeah, it actually. Well, no. Okay, so where does this get called from? Right here. This is where it's defined. The function takes self, load current card, the draw 2, and game ID int. And the draw 2 actually isn't used, but anyway. Game ID int. Alright, so let's go to the next one. This is 425. What is this? Okay. Now, subcard look dictionary, card movement. So game ID int is actually passed to this function. Is passed to card movement through being passed to this function, which in turn is passed through a dictionary which has these functions as values. So that's the, can't remember what it's called, funcdict. That's what it's called, the funct dictionary, function dictionary. So we can't look specifically for okay, so that's all of them. So we have to look at the function dictionary. Funcdict, is that what it's called? Yeah, Okay, so let's go here. Um, and this is okay. So this is passed to append. This is actually passed. Ultimately, it starts with append. Isn't there a better way to do that? Like passing it from append to the function. I mean, it's not extraordinarily complicated, but it just seems like we would be able to pass that another way. I've refactored that. I'm not like really worried about it, but you know, I'm sure there's a genius that could be like, oh yeah, you can just do one step. You don't have to do hot potato with it 4 times. Um, but anyway, keep going, keep going. See what we got going on here. This is where, what is this? Visual Red 3 meld update. Okay, that's not going to be a problem, obviously. Okay, so this is our function dictionary. And most of them call the same one. Okay, so what we need to do then is actually, unfortunately, is to get to the root of the problem is to look up append. So we need to find dot append. I already know where the problem is. I think I just figured it out. Yeah, right here, man. Or wait, hold on. Wait a second. Isn't append dynamically, like, do we have to pass the game ID int, or does it, this is not the file, that's not the file, man. I'm looking for custom append list. Okay, let's go to append. Let's look at the append method, and we have, yeah, I was gonna say, well, couldn't we assign game ID int, and I was wondering, do we already do that, like, assign game ID int based on the thing being appended to, and that would work in all instances except for like the deck, which I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I'm just like, damn, could we do that though? Because I just feel like I had an idea, bro. I feel like I could just that if we, instead of having to assign game ID int by passing it along during the hot potato thing, couldn't I just dynamically assign it based on the self? Like if the self's name has P1 in it, then it would, we would pass the game ID int as 1. If it was 2, then it would have the game ID int of 2. I'm gonna hold off on that, but I'm pretty sure, dude, that would work. I'm quite certain that would work, actually. I feel like I just figured out. Couldn't have been that easy, huh? I mean, I am smarter than I was yesterday, so I always look at old code and I'm like, what the fuck was I thinking? Well, I got smarter. That's what happened. Game ID int improvement. Say logic improvement. And this is going to be 9, 10, 24, and we'll say noticed that I could probably assign game ID int dynamically from append by checking for 1 or 2 in the card group name. Instead of playing arg hot potato, use auto assignment based on group name. Well, we just wouldn't have to pass it to append. We would not have to pass this arg to append anymore. Yeah, we would not have to pass this arg to append anymore. And let's see. This wouldn't work for deck, etc. Would have to figure something out for those instances, but I'm not even sure game ID int is required for deck those operations. Like, in that case, whenever we're operating from, like, so the endpoint of the game ID int arg is where? Well, it's card movement, right? So if we could, that's to determine which screen is getting updated. But couldn't we just assign, like in setup, couldn't we assign the current game variable? We could assign like locations dot current game equals 1 or 2, or a P1 game or a P2 game, and wait, dude, I'm just like, hold up. Whoa, yeah, oh, okay. So, you know, I'm like, wait a second. It couldn't be that simple. I was just like, wait a second. I just feel like I skipped another step. Like, if the only purpose of game ID int is to be passed to card movement to ensure we're calling draw window main on the correct game object, then, and I'm pretty sure that is it, dude. So let's go to locations here, card movement. So game ID int, yeah, is the endpoint, or card movement is the endpoint, and all this does is assign game so that we can then say game dot draw window main. Isn't that the only purpose? Dang, dude. I'm dumb. You know, dumbass. I went through all that like trouble. I saw a video of Tech with Tim, and he went through his old code and looked at it, and he was talking about how bad his old code was, but it was like a finished working project. But he was like, dang, this code was bad. I know that feeling, because I'm pretty certain I just realized that this is really simple. Basically, I'm just gonna go to the setup file, and I don't even have to pass this arg at all, right? Like, at all. I don't have to pass this arg. Oops. I don't have to pass this arg ever at any point in time. Pretty certain, like almost 100% positive of this. This is the endpoint. We use it to call draw window main on the proper object. And all we need to do is make sure the endpoint knows the proper game object, and we can directly assign that by assigning a variable, or attribute rather, variable, whatever, attribute, yeah, where are we gonna put this? We'll just put it right at the top. Like, I'm looking for the right spot for it. Just put it at the top. We'll just call it self dot game. Like, we can say game object or game ID. Say game object, it's fine. And we'll assign it to none. And I was trying to think of, the proper namespace and all that, and just a little bit of logic behind it to make sure I'm thinking correctly. Better slow and steady than just rushing through it and creating a bug in the process. So self.gameObject equals none, comment created 9, 10, 24. The type is going to be just game class instance. Purpose assigned in setup based on whether it's run from client number 1 or number 2. Is used in card movement to call draw window main from this game object. And that raises the question of, like, and it's not really a huge deal, but I was thinking, would it actually matter if I called, well, it would, yeah, because it uses all of the, like, progression text and so on and so forth associated with that game object. So if we were to use P2 instead of P1 and call it from P2, then it would have the incorrect, like, visuals as far as the game attributes that are not even transferred to that client because we don't transfer like because they don't use it in terms of the other client. Anyway, so this is how I think we should do it, and it will fix our problem completely. Easy, dude. This is so easy, bro. This is such an easy fix. Alright, so let's go ahead and we're gonna hold off on implementing this, but I'm happy because I knew there was a better way to do that. I just knew it, and that was something that always bothered me, and now that I'm older and wiser, I see a much easier option. So yeah, and this would solve all of the like every instance would be solved immediately. So we'll say change game ID int or actually we'll just remove it. Remove game ID int entirely. Replace with locations, or locate rather, because that's the instance, since we made it an instance attribute. Dot game object. We'll replace with locate dot game object. Assignment from setup. This would be one end done to solve game object assignments for all instances. 1000% better. Cool. Ensure we modify all related logic and code to ensure we change, we do this safely. Now, okay. So we'll hold off on that for now. Well, you know what? Since we're actually modifying this, like, since this bug is related to that, shouldn't we just go ahead and, like, implement it? You know what I mean? I feel like we should. Because why would we go and search for game ID int and all that when we can just like get rid of it? It's like working with a dead body. Like, why are you gonna dress it up? You know, like, we're not having a funeral. You know what I mean? Like, just go away. You're dead. Let's not pretend otherwise. So let's go ahead and how do we address this? We need to, well, just search for game ID int, and there's multiple places that use this. Why is this so small? Oh, you can change the size of that? I didn't know that. It's not like changing. What's up with this? Why this? Why would this? Did I break this? I broke it? What did I do? I didn't do this. I didn't touch it, man. Why is it so small? What happened? They're all like that. What the hell? Okay, this one's not. Okay, I fixed it. Don't know how, but I did. Okay, so we're gonna just do a Control Shift F to search the entire project. We're gonna look for game ID int every single instance of it. Damn, we're just gonna hold up, dude. This is a big change. This is a big change. So let me actually. I think I should. I think I need to make a backup just in case. I mean, it's not a huge change. It's a big enough change though to where I don't want to have to like go through it manually. I can just revert back to a previous state. So what we'll do is we're gonna commit and push our changes, and then we'll save it in that way. And just in case we fudge it up and we realize, and let me just think about this just for a second, make sure I'm not forgetting like a critical piece of information that would disallow me from doing this thing that I'm proposing. So all we'd have to do is we already went to locations, we created the attribute, and everything converges in setup. So setup is safe in the sense that it's executed once on the it's executed after everything's initialized. So there's not going to be any import issues if we do it here. Like just in case, this is where it all converges at setup, and it's run once on the server, once on the client, once on each client. So all we have to do, setup takes game. I didn't even know that. Setup takes game. When did that become a thing? So create double deck takes it for what? Why? Just to call game.cardgroup add. Okay. But since this is called on the... Wait a second, man. Since this is called from the... We don't actually need to pass this game object at all, since we can just directly import it and like we don't have to pass it in. We can just directly import it, because this is the same. This is like a smaller instance of the same exact thing I'm dealing with the game ID int. Like this is playing hot potato with the game class object, and all we need to do is we would pass game. We would you could say global game. I'm pretty sure that would work. and then we would just import game as well, and then we don't have to pass it at all, I think. Methinks. So let's go over here, and we'll also add that in, and we're gonna do both of those. We're gonna say setup 924, and we're going to remove the the game param from setup and import the game object directly into setup pi. Great. And that is definitely going to be a solid fix, because then import into create double deck via global game, right? I think that would work. Yeah, so that should work perfectly. So first though, we're going to create this backup basically. So we cd'd, changed our directory to the root project directory. Now we can do git branch, make sure we're on the right branch. We are on secondary, that's what we want. We're gonna do git add dot, and that's gonna add everything. We're gonna do git commit -m, and we're going to make this commit message not be a devlog entry as usual. We're gonna say before game id int and game setup changes. Boom. Okay, there we go. We created our commit, and now we can do git push Canasta secondary, and that should push to the remote repository. Alright, cool. Now we can do now we can go ahead and cd back in. There we go. Now we can go ahead and make the changes. So first thing we're gonna do is we'll do the easier one first, which is the setup game. So let's go ahead and remove this parameter. We're gonna import game as well, and now let's search for all instances of game, and this one is not gonna pass that in anymore. And let me check the comment, make sure it didn't have it listed in there. Okay, and now we're just gonna say global game, which is gonna take that imported game object and it's gonna use it right here in this function call. Wait a second, okay, I see it. I'm looking at the wrong indentation, I'm tripping. So this is actually outside of the function. So yeah, we can remove this, and it's gonna just say global game, and then it's going to, wait a second, where does it actually need it? It doesn't need it here. Oh, it needs it right here. So we don't even have to import it using global. I was looking at my function, like my indentation is wrong. This function ends here. We actually need game right here, which is in the global names, the global scope. So all we need to do is execute that code directly. Yeah, there we go. Okay, that was easy. Now we need to find setup where it's called, and we're gonna remove the game arg, and I think that will probably be it. Nope, wrong again, lover boy. Okay, so that was it. What else do we need to do regarding that change? Let's what does this say? Move this here to just circular import issues. Originally this was in game pi, but since we had to start importing game into custom timeless, we could no longer do this. Okay, so we're not gonna why would I not just say one? Why would I do? That's silly. P1 game. Why would I do it like that? Why would I do silly shit like that? Okay. Let's go back here. Do these again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Alright, yeah, so that should work perfectly. And we fixed the setup where it's called, we removed it in all the proper places. So what do we need to do now? Well, now we can do the other thing, which actually, that comment we were just looking at, the other thing being modify the game ID int thing. Well, that actually wasn't in that comment. That was just ID, not game ID int. So let's go to things to do. Let's get rid of that because we finished it. Remove the game parameter from setup and import the game object directly into setup. Cool, we did that. Alright, now we're gonna go to devlog and let's close these files. We have these two open. Let's go to things to do, devlog, and we'll say from 4 to 453. Figured out a better solution for game ID int and set up game. selected it. Well, we're actually not done with that, so since we're lumping them together like that, we might as well. So now we need to do game ID int logic improvement, remove game ID and entirely replace with locate game object assignment from setup. Oh, okay, that's right. Now we need to go to, so let's go to setup, and we're gonna, at some point here, we need to import locate, which we do. We're gonna assign locate dot game object equals okay, I see what we're gonna need to do. We're gonna need to pass and what about like for server side? Where is SS or CS assigned at? Because I was gonna say, so we have SS or CS assigned in client and then server, but is it before setup is run, or is it okay? It is before setup. So we can will import, I mean, we could import it in the global namespace, or we could import it from the function call. I don't think that would matter. It's the same object, so we would just say from, what's it, SS or CS? I don't know exactly. Let me think about this for a second before I make a decision. So I think for server side, we could simply from SS or CS, or rather from server side, from server side, do we actually need to assign this object? Because we don't actually ever call draw window main, but we do call card movement. Card movement calls draw window main. So how do we call draw window main from the server at all? So I'll just put ever call draw window main from SS, right? But how do we not crash when we run, what's it called, when we run card movement? How do we not crash when we run card. Oh, because well, how do we not crash when we run card movement? I, because we have to have the game ID object assigned the game ID int. Okay, because we pass it as either 1 or 2 based on the current game. But that's actually not necessary. So like, so I see now. So from server side, do we actually need to assign this object because we don't actually ever call draw window main from server side, right? But how do we not crash when we run card movement? Well, I know the answer to that question. Do we actually need to assign this object? I would say we don't need to assign this. We could add logic wherein if called from, or rather, yeah, called from SS, meaning if SS or CS is equal to SS, then we leave locate.gameObject equal to none, or equals none. This implies bypassing doesn't that mean that we would bypass card movement altogether from the server side? Basically, like, if we're running from server side, if SS or CS is equal to SS, then we don't even run card movement. I don't know about that though. So we call draw window main from client, but that's not what we're worried about. We're worried about server side. Um, this would be another task. I was just wondering, like, how do we call draw window main from server side without um, it crashing? I mean, I know it works, but I'm just wondering, like, if screen service endure, maybe it's all because of screen service not being endure. Only existing, yeah, due to screen service only existing client side. So I'm pretty sure these if screen service endure of selves are to avoid that exact thing that I'm talking about. So man, I'm realizing some stuff today about my code that I could fix like easily, that like I could use one line and you know, I don't want to get too confident in, but I'm pretty sure this is another case where all of these instances where I end up calling this line, executing this line, if screen service endure self, is to avoid a server-side attribute error. I think like virtually all of those would be bypassed by this, by modifying it so that during, well, the question is like, do we still need to call it from locations, from card movement? Do we still need to execute card movement or not? Can we just not execute card movement from server side, which in turn calls draw window main? Or do we just can we only nix draw window main from server side, or can we also nix the card movement call? Because the thing I'm worried about is the assignment of certain information inside of card movement that is like required to be run on the server side, you know what I mean? So loc is equal to self.card group loc dig at deck. So this assigns images. This assigns the card's image, but this would get called derivatively on the client side. Like this doesn't need to be transferred or anything. And since we don't display the image on the server side, then why would we need to run this code on the server side? So if the draw to yeah, like none of that needs to be run. So I'm just gonna go through line by line, I guess, real quick, and like all of this. Okay, so this does assign all of the proper like card locations and stuff, but honestly, yeah, so this, I'm just like, I don't know if, I don't think, I'm not sure though. Do I actually need this to be run on the server side? because this does change the X and Y values. But all of that is derivative. But like the only thing I'm worried about is, would it need it? You know, like, would the server side need to have the correct X and Y? And I'm like, honestly, I don't know if it would, because if it doesn't draw the screen, it doesn't really need the XY. The XY and all that is used through ultimately in draw window main. So I feel like if we did just bypass this entire function on the server side, it would save us a ridiculous amount of computational time and power by avoiding not only this function but also the branch from it, which is draw window main. The only thing though is these card X and Y assignments. But like I said, this doesn't, like, it's not needed. I'm thinking it's needed a lot throughout the project, but not for anything that I can think of off the top of my head that's for the server side. Like, the server side basically is the data transfer between the server, the two client threads, and the two clients on the client side. So here's the deal. And on the server's thread, basically it just progresses through the progression loops. And those don't ever need the XY values. Let me just see, just like out of curiosity. I'm pretty sure. Okay, so they're changed during the return draw card to reverse what the draw animation does, and then they're changed and transferred, but they're not referenced. You know what I mean? Like, they're not referenced, and if they're not referenced, that means they're not necessary. And if all that matters is that append and pop gets called and that gets transferred to the client side, the rest is derivative. The rest is going to get executed on the client side where that data is actually needed, where it's going to redraw the screen. So, like, I'm fairly confident that I can completely nix draw window main and card movement from being called point blank period the end on the server side. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over here. We're going to say SS card movement and draw window main. Yeah, this is actually big. This is a big design improvement because it's a lot more lean. It's going to be more performant, and well, it's going to be less prone to bugs and stuff because you're not having code executed where it's not, you know. It's like, it's less wear and tear on the system, and it would reduce the amount of like logs that would get put out that would be useless on server side, which is also a big deal. So we're gonna put after reviewing associated logic, realized we can almost certainly nix card movement and draw window main function calls from server side. None of the data is needed, SS, and none of the code needs to be, none of the associated code needs to be run. All that is needed is the append to be called and transferred to the client. The client derivatively executes all that code and gets all of that data through the transferred append. Yes. Okay. Okay, I actually have to use the bathroom. I'll be back. I gotta take a little break anyway. Okay, I need to write this down real quick. Accomplished, before I forget it. Accomplished via one and done SS or CS check at beginning of each associated function or something like that. And I think that's gonna be a good solution, and I'll be right back. Okay. Oh, dude, I just was like, damn, did I have the wrong mic enabled the whole time? But no, I don't think I did. I think I had the right mic enabled. So let's go ahead and do a little bit more, and then I'm gonna call it quits because I'm a little bit tired. Um, how long have we been going here for? 1:30, an hour and 30. So we're just gonna do like 30 more minutes till 6. Okay. All right. So let's knock this out. Um, SS card movement and draw window main. After viewing associated object, realize we can almost certainly nix card movement draw window main function calls from server side. None of the data is needed server side, and none of the associated code needs to be run. All that is needed is the append to be called and transferred to the client. The client derivatively executes all that code and gets all of that data. The client derivatively executes all that code and gets all that data through the transferred append. Accomplished via one and done SS or CS check at the beginning of each associated function or something. Like, so let's do this first. Yeah, let's do this first, and then we'll do the SS card movement, because that's a little bit more like consequential, or, well, if my theory is correct, it wouldn't be, but like, theories are often wrong, and since that affects a lot more things, I think, yeah, we're just gonna make the simpler, easier change first. So we're going to do this game ID in logic improvement, and we were already in the midst of it, sort of, but using two card from this game object. Okay, so we added. Okay, so let me lay this out like step by step. So we're removing the game ID entirely. We're going to replace it with locate game object assignment from setup. So it'd be one and done to solve the game object assignments for all instances of card movement. From SS, do we actually need to assign this object? Because we don't actually ever call draw window main from SS, right? I would say we don't need to assign this. We could add logic wherein if we called, then we leave locate dot game object equal to none. And what is this referring to? If what is called? This is talking about card movement, right? If card, yeah, because yeah, we're talking about the endpoint is where game object is needed is the card movement function, and we're saying in this section right here we don't need to assign this. We could add logic wherein if we called from server side checking if SS or CS, then we leave locate game object equal to none. And basically that's what led us to the broader idea of avoiding card movement and draw window main function calls altogether. And I think like, so we're gonna do this one first, then the broader one after, but like this kind of ties together. So I think if we are going to like implement a way for these functions to be bypassed, which is ultimately like we don't have to set the game object to be none in those instances, because those instances imply calling card movement. We don't need to call card movement at all from server side. So, like, we could modify all the instances where we call card movement so that we would check SS or CS equal to SS first, or we could just put the if SS or CS equal to SS check inside of the card movement function at the very top. And if it was equal to SS, we would just return from that function immediately. So it'd basically just be like an in and out sort of thing. And that would only require us writing it in one place instead of like 10. So I think that would be a good option. And as far as like, since this ties into draw window main, that would, we could make it so that which one calls which? So draw window main. No, card. Is it draw window main? So let me think of the chain of events here. There's the append. Then the append calls the associated movement function. And the associated movement function calls. Let me paint this. So we have. Why is this like this? Why don't I just like fill the screen? Whatever. Okay, so we have append, which is APP. We'll just put APP. Then we have, from append, we have funcdict call. Then we'll call then we have, from there we have the actual function inside of funcdict. Then we have the, from there we have card movement. Card M. And then from there we have draw window main. We'll just put D W M. And we do need this server side. But honestly, let's work our way from the end. So we don't need draw window main. We don't need card movement. But do we need, because here's the thing, if we don't need the function and we don't need the function dictionary call and all we need is append, if that's all we need, then we can put the if SS or CS is equal to SS, we can put that SS or CS, we can put that like, you know, where do we put it? We don't need it here. We don't need it here. Do we need it here? If we need this, then we would have to put it like here. If we don't need this, then we could put it, well, if we don't need this, then we don't need that. So then that means we would just put it here. So let's say right now we have it right here. And we need to figure out if we can put it like further back along the chain. So yeah, that's a good way to look at it, I think. So we're going to we're gonna look at that section. Because, well, and then I'm thinking, am I out of order here? Like, can I just take care of this task? But if this task, or rather if this task is dependent on this task, then I have to do this one first. So we're questioning whether or not we need to assign locate.gameObject equal to none. Well, yeah, no, that actually, we could just, I think we could completely finish this change. Like, we could finish this task, rather, without it being dependent on our solution of this task. Because regardless, card movement still needs gameObject, and gameObject gets assigned at the initiation of, well, no, I'm sorry, it gets defined in setup. So yeah, in setup we would say if SS or CS is equal to SS, then gameObject equals none, else gameObject is equal to the associated game game. And then when card movement got called, it would reference that gameObject to draw the draw window main on the proper gameObject, which is necessary. So yeah, I think we can do that. So I'm gonna finish that task real quick. We're gonna put this. Let's see. We'll put solution. Determine how far back along the chain of events SS needs to go before checking if SS or CS is equal to SS. Determine how far back along the chain of events SS needs to go before checking if SS or CS is equal to SS. This would bypass all unnecessary code execution. Chain of event equals, and then we have it in paint. So we have the append, then the dictionary. So we put append then we have the func dict, then we have the actual function, then we have card movement, and then draw window main. So then we have card movement, then we have draw window main. Okay, so that's good. Chain of events, append, func dict, func, card movement, draw window main, and we'll put verified not needed equals draw window main, card movement, and then I'll just put it like this. Oops, not like that. So do like that. Okay, yeah, so now we need to check function dictionary, and then append. So let's go to where, well, let's go to func dictionary first, because those are almost interchangeable. Uh-huh. So if I did the check here, I would have to put it at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 places. If I did it at unless I made it a function and I put it at the base of the function. But, you know, this is going to require me to have to review all of these functions. You know what I'm saying? Because, you know, it encompasses all of those different functions to see if there would be any logic that's necessary on the server side. Because this project is so intricate and connected, because it is my first project. Well, it's my first big project. I've made a couple smaller projects. This is like my first big boy project that I've made using Python. And if I were to you know, assume that we didn't need, as long as we need one line in any of those functions, then we can't put the SS or CS check at this point. We would then have to put it at a different point. So since I'm kind of tired, this is the end of the session. I don't really want to undertake that task because that's like requires me to really be on point and like really focus, which I'm fading away into the sunset as we speak. So I will put review all functions if at least one line is necessary in any of them, cannot check at this point. And this, we just put the same thing here. And we definitely need the append. Verified needed SS. So the two in question are these two. And we'll put next review all dict functions to see if SS necessary. And we can put if not necessary instead of checking SS or CS every time we call dict functions, create new function that calls create new function that contains SS or CS check along with associated func call for 1x instead of 8x. And then we'll say if necessary, probably leave check inside of card movement, which may end up being what we will do. So we're gonna hold off on that. We're going to do this game ID and logic improvement, and we're gonna quit after that. So let's hurry up and not hurry up, but let's see if we can do this before we have to quit. So we're gonna close all of these files except for, let's do one at a time here. Okay, so chain of events here. Remove game ID entirely. Replace with locate game object assignment from setup. So you want it done. Okay. Game ID entirely locate game object assignment from setup. So what we need to do here is in setup, we're going to check. Well, let's do it from SS or, and I think that's how we write this. From SS. Oh no, we actually do import SS or, because we have to import it that way since it's a I'm an idiot. Let me try this. Oh, it's not that file. It's from change attribute list. That's why. Right. So we say from change attribute. Let's see, from changed attribute list, and let's Control Shift F see if that's how we've done it elsewhere. Right. So that's how we do it. We have to do it from change attribute list import. Isn't that how we have to import SS or CS? I think it is. Oh, duh. See, I'm getting sleepy. We have to import the entire import change attribute list because it's an immutable object, which means if we were to import it using from change attribute list import it, then it wouldn't actually modify it in its original location, which is, we need that to happen. So server and required import format due to handling mutable global var SS or CS, and then we do the same thing in client, and I'm really getting sleepy now. So we need to, this music is putting me to sleep. Go over here and we're gonna say import changed attribute list. True. True that. Alright. Now we can say if changed attribute list dot SS or CS, and this should be the format. Okay, we just said it, yeah. So I was just making sure we formatted it correctly. Change attribute list dot SS or CS. Right. So then we verified setup happens after SS or CS is set. So I can put verified that this takes place server side and client side after SS or CS has been properly assigned. And I did check that for server, because there's SS or CS assignment, and then we have setup call after. Client, let's check that. Let's look up for setup, and we need SS or CS to be set before that. So SS or CS, so that's at line 415, and this is inside of if name equals main. Yeah, there we go. And then SS or CS equals CS. So we definitely said that first. Cool. So we verified that. Now we can go back to this takes place both SS and CS after this has been properly assigned. Verify that this takes place both after both SS and CS. Verified that this takes place after both SS and CS properly assign SS or CS. Verify this takes place after both SS and CS properly assign SS or CS. Say that 5 times fast. if change attribute list dot ss or cs is equal to ss, then locate.gameObject, well, actually, since it's default to none, well, it's not, that doesn't matter, because we assign ss or cs to either ss or cs at the beginning of client and server. So what we want to check for, rather, locate.gameObject is initially set to none. Yeah, game object is initially set to none. So if it is equal to ss, then we don't need to do anything because it's already set to none. If it's equal to cs, then locate.gameObject is equal to proper game object. But how do we get that? We need that to be passed to setup. We say proper game object via int arg to setup int. So I'll put don't have to check for ss because locate dot game object equals none by default, because locate.game object equals none by default. And I'll actually put this right here. So now we need to take we'll call it client ID equals none, and now we're gonna say just put it right here, client ID arg type int purpose to assign locate.game object in case of being run from CS. SS already, or SS is bypassed, causing locate.game object to properly remain set to none. So now we have this: if change attribute list .sscs equal to cs for client side, locate.game object equals, and we'll change this to be client ID. Well, no, not client ID. Rather, we'll say if client ID is equal to 1, then locate is equal to p1 game, and then else locate.game object is equal to p2 game. And this is basically saying elif client ID is equal to 2. Okay, so if change attribute list.sscs is equal to cs, Then we check if client ID is equal to 1, locate game object is equal to p1 game, else, which is either if client ID is equal to 2, locate.game object is equal to p2 game, which we already both import, so like we don't need to do anything else there. Now we can modify all the setup calls so that they call with the proper client ID. Well, and this is going to be int, so let's change this to be client ID int. So we have 2, 3, 4, let's say 1 ID int, client ID int, client ID int, client ID int. Got to be very clear in our card. Here we go. So in client, we're gonna pass in the client ID. So we're gonna say client ID. So we client ID int equals client ID. Cool, cool. Now setup. This is gonna be I would just put client ID int arg is left empty, and therefore it defaults to proper for SS none. Cool. Alright, and I think that's it. Yay. Cool, we did it. Now we just have to go through, which I'm gonna call it quits here, but we have to go through. Let's see. So we don't need signs. We get all right. So all we need to do, I'll put next is to true modify related code to show you safely. Next, I'll put done created game object adder and associated assignment logic in setup. Next, remove all vestiges of game ID int, and then also convert. What was I thinking of? Convert card movement, right? Card movement to check for. Wait. Wait a second. Okay, I lost my train of thought here. We had locate game object. I'm like, damn, did I just like, was I faulty in this entire system that I just fucking made up? Like, was I wrong here? Because I'm thinking, wait a second, how does card movement get, how does card movement gain access to, how does card movement gain access to the locate dot game object? Well, it would have to, we would have to, okay, so let me think of the chain of events here. We have the locate.game object. Oh, duh. Because locate card movement is inside of locations. So it's a method of the locate instance, meaning it will have direct access to this. Oh, beautiful. I scared myself for a second. I was like, wait, what? Cool. All right. So what do we need to do? Yeah, I'm losing my train of thought here. Crashing hard. Here we go. Convert card movement to check. So yeah, we don't have to convert card movement. Card movement will. Okay, we do need to convert card movement to check for game self dot game object instead of game ID int. Yeah, so we do have to do that. Okay, cool. So we're done. We got everything figured out 100%. We made really good progress. That was a solid session. We didn't solve the disappear bug, but this is actually like something that I had planned on doing. That being like figuring out which code is dead on the server side and not executing that code, but I was just like, we don't really need to do that. I just want to get it running. It's part of fixing this bug involved modifying the game ID int thing, and then I realized game ID int could be streamlined, and I was like, well, then that means server side logic could be streamlined, which is, it all kind of depends on each other. I was like, you know what, might as well just go ahead and do it, and maybe this will fix our bug. Maybe, since if it was caused by the game ID int is equal to none thing, that means if we fix that issue, if that was the bug and we fix that issue, the bug will be fixed. So we'll find out. We'll see. So we're gonna put 6:15, and from 4 to 6:13, we figured out better suits for game ID int setup game and overall server side code execution extensiveness logic, sort of. Implemented most of the proposed changes, reviewed logic, and everything seems sound. Is a massive performance and bug reduction fix by reducing amount of code executed server side, and reducing overall lines of code and improving logic and readability. So major W there for our coding, and we're gonna say from 6.14 to 6.15 we did stage commit and pushed our changes, and then I will put right here created checkpoint commit push to repo before game ID int da da da, etc. Da, da, da. So we did 2.25 hours, which is great. Not well, it's not, it's alright. Now we're gonna cd out to our root project directory, and we're going to do git add, or rather git branch, make sure we're on the right branch, which we are. We're going to do git add. Cool. We can ignore those lf warnings. Git commit -m double quotes, paste in our devlog message double quotes, enter. Successfully made a new commit, 5 files changed, 45 insertions, 16 deletions. Now we can do git push second, and it pushed to the remote repo. Now we're gonna make our local backup, so we go over here to programming projects, Canasta. We copy this one, backup to the backup. We go and delete the old backup, hit OK, ignore the Google Drive warning message, paste in the new, enter into it to text devlog to the end of the file to ensure today's date is the last entry, which it is, which means we backup process properly. Now we go to the backup folder and set the to reflect today's date, which is the last up. We're done. Tomorrow, hopefully. Good day, and if Southeast Louisiana like me, and I hope you're ready for the storm tomorrow. Wish me luck at work. I'm gonna go because even though I'm a little bit sick and I have sick days, if I put in my sick day I only get 4 hours, but if I go to work I might end up driving and make a lot of money, because I think a lot of jobs are gonna call out my cover drive. Some driving.